Hello my friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my channel and another video featuring a STAMPtember 2025 limited edition collab set. Today's collab is with Dare to Be Artsy and it's the Merry Mix and Match set. And it's mix and match because you've got three sort of main images to choose from and you can just use them as circular images. You could turn them into ornaments because there's a little ornament topper stamp in the set. And then there's also a base stamp to make these into like snow globes. So that's what I did. I took two of the images and I stamped them with Simon's black ink onto some Neenah Classic Crest Solar White 110 pound cardstock. And then I'm coloring these in with OLO markers. Any alcohol markers will work. Could color them in any way you choose. Another option I thought of, and I thought of this after I went, I kind of went all out for these cards. Love it, don't regret it. But then as I was editing, I was like, ooh, if you wanted to skip coloring completely, you could stamp and heat emboss these in gold. Because you guys know I love me some gold on white. You know, do very sort of clean and simple. There's enough detail in these that I think it would look gorgeous. It would look gorgeous, and then you wouldn't have to color them. But I colored them. So I've talked about this a lot when it comes to specifically OLO markers. They come with connectors and you connect them so they're a normal size marker. I still have not done that. I just use them like this, my little stublets. Doesn't bother me, doesn't, bug my hands. And the reason I do it is that way I can see at a glance all the colors. That's just what's working for me so far. So again, this coloring is actually fairly simple. These are images, again, where when you first look at them, it's like, ooh, like that's a lot of coloring, or, it seems intimidating. But actually, once you start coloring, these didn't take that long. I didn't use a whole lot of colors. It was pretty simple. And it was fun. It was fun. And the little idea I had in my head, I was like, I wanted to make these like little shaker cards, like really make them look like snow globes, and it worked, and I was super happy. Hence, you seeing this video. So I did a very dark background, so kind of like night sort of scenes with these, and then after I do that, then I went in and did the last little bits, like the trees and everything, just in case I ended up getting messy when, doing such dark colors for the backgrounds, which I managed to not do that. Shocker. Who'da thunk? So did those and then filled in the trees and then the last little bits, which will be, the smoke coming up from the chimney. And I use a really, really pale sort of blue-green shade that's almost gray to add those little bits to the snow areas, which sometimes you can kind of leave that off, but other times, it's nice to define that sort of stuff. But again, these are going to be shakers in the end, so you can kind of take everything with a little bit of a grain of salt. So I'm also going to use my white gel pen to add highlights, which after I was done, I was just like, oh, maybe you don't need to do that because of the shakers. But I'm looking at the finished cards as I'm like doing this voiceover, and you can still see the white highlights. So to each their own. So anyway, filled in that last little corner there. And then, I just used my white gel pen to add a bunch of little random highlights wherever I thought they were going to look nice, honestly. No rhyme or reason. Technically no light source, They're nighttime scenes. Still added white highlights, whatever. So, did all that. And I did not die cut these or trim them in that sense. We will come back to them. And then I used the snow globe base, did the same thing, stamped them with black ink onto the Neenah Classic Crest Solar White 110 pound cardstock, and then colored these in with my OLO markers, just giving them that nice sort of like a wood look. And like I do with all alcohol markers for the most part, I do darkest to lightest. It's just a convenience thing. When you're newer to alcohol markers, highly recommend going lightest to darkest until you learn more control. Because it's easier to add darker shades, or add darker areas than it is to try and like blend things out and take it away. So that's just what I do. And again, this is all super sped up. I do not color this quickly at all. I don't have a lot of time right now to do voiceovers. I'm kind of, I'm nuts. I'm nuts, man. Everything is good. So once I'm done coloring in the little bases, I do the same thing. I take my white gel pen and add just a bunch of little highlights wherever my brain decided to stick them. And then the bases, I die cut with the coordinating wafer die. Now, if you don't have the coordinating wafer dies, because those do tend to sell out very quickly, I get it. The base, super easy to fussy cut. And then all you need is a circle die. It doesn't need to be like, as long as it's close to the size. And the circle die we'll get back to in a second. This is where I started getting a little finicky. So I took a piece of Simon's Rainforest cardstock. Love this stuff. And it's A2 size, so it's 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. Put it in my MISTI. And then I pulled out the white Christmas text background, which I told you all that I would probably be using this over and over again because I love this stamp. I've already lost track how many times I've used it. I love it. So I have that. And then I have these panels of white cardstock. And right now they're about 3 by 4 1/4 inches. Again, I kind of overthought this. It works. So I lined up the white cardstock inside my MISTI. I had inked that stamp up with Simon's Dew Positively Saturated ink. And you saw me ink it up and I stamped it just onto scrap paper there. That just takes like the first impression of the ink because I want what I stamp onto those white cardstock panels to be very light. So by stamping it on the scrap paper first, takes that first impression, and then without re-inking or doing anything, I line up that white cardstock panel in my MISTI and I stamp that stamp again. So I get that second generation of ink. It's not perfect. That's fine. I just wanted it to be really light. And now that I've got everything like lined up, the stamp was lined up, this original panel was lined up, I'm putting the A2 size panel back into my MISTI, and I'm going to ink up that background stamp with white pigment ink. And the reason I was lining everything up is so the text is sort of uninterrupted when I layer everything together. But in the end, does it really matter? Not really. You have to really be looking at it to pay attention and being like, oh, it does, who cares, So you could totally skip the overthinking. It'll work for some things, but yeah. Anyway, inked it up with white pigment ink and stamped it on this background. And yeah, I love this background stamp. It's so good. I love any text background stamp. They work. They work just for creating, pattern and whatever. So I stamped that onto these panels and then I trimmed them down. I decided I didn't want everything to be exactly A2 sized. So the white panels, I just took like 1/8 of an inch off the top and bottom. So now it's 4 inches by 3 inches. And then my A2 size panels, I trimmed down to 4 inches by 5 1/4. The white panels is where I'm going to die cut the circle from. And like I said, it can be any circle die, just as long as it's roughly the size of those little snow globe images. So I die cut it from that panel. And then on the back of it, I'm putting some strong adhesive. This is Simon's TEAR RIFIC tape. Score tape will work, red line tape will work, just a strong adhesive. I don't like using liquid adhesive for this. I've gone over it a million times because I'm going to press acetate into this to create my window. And liquid, glue, and plastic, no fun. Oozes out, makes a mess, and it takes forever to dry. Not a fan. So I prefer dry adhesives like the TEAR RIFIC tape, red line tape, score tape. So I put that around the perimeter on the back of these white panels and then just pressed a piece of acetate into it. That creates my window. Now to make these into a shaker, I slightly trimmed down the cardstock where I had stamped those images originally, but I've got a decent border around them. And I'm creating the shaker on this. Normally, we do it on the back where I put the acetate, and then I'd put the foam tape, fill it in, and press that image to it. However, I want to make sure this image is right side up. It's a vehicle, they're both scenes, and they need to be, so unless you've got X-ray vision and can see through the cardstock, I was like, yeah, nope. So I'm putting the foam tape on this panel. I'm using standard thickness foam tape. This is specifically Altenews 1/4 inch by a 1/16 of an inch thick foam tape. if depending on your shaker bits, you might want to use thicker foam tape or double up your foam tape. For what I'm using, this was fine. And I pulled the backer off the foam tape that makes it flexible. And that way I could go all the way around with foam tape. Make sure there's no gaps so nothing falls out. There's no backer on it so that it's not going to flip around. I can put in my shaker bits and then press the window onto it and we're done. And for the shaker bits, I'm using the new Distress Snowflakes glitter that came out last month, whenever it was. This is my first time using it. I love it. It's really pretty. It's a win. So yeah, it's got like the Mica Flakes and the rock candy glitter and a little bit of iridescent glitter, and I love it. I love it. So I put a bit in there and then I press that panel with the window to it, and there's my little snow globe. So I'm repeating the process on the second one. I just took a bit of the foam tape, removed the backer, and then that way I can just work my way around the scene here. And then the big thing to always remember is you don't want any gaps, especially if you're using something like glitter, because you don't want that popping out. And then I just put the remaining bits of foam tape there on the corners just so that everything is level. And then I just scoop in a little bit of this glitter mix. This specific spoon's from Tonic. I don't know if they even make it anymore. I got it years ago, but any little spoon is going to work. So I scoop just a little bit in there. And then I've got my shakers, and they're so cute. Like, yeah. I'll shake these in the end, at the very end. I don't even know if my microphone will pick it up. These are the type of shakers where it's not like noisy, you know, that shaker sound that I love. It's more like that whole snow, because, you know, snow globes technically don't make noise. So anyway, you know, I'm getting finicky with the details. So then to embellish, I'm using the 2 stems and berries die set from Simon Says Stamp. These 2 greens, I do not have links for. These were Hero Arts cardstock, and I'm not sure what the status is on those. Like, if I hope Hero Arts continues to make these, because I don't have colors similar to these. They're specifically Shamrock and Pine. Pine's the darker one, Shamrock is the lighter green. Not sure what's going on there. Hopefully they continue to make these. I couldn't even find a listing for the Pine one. And Shamrock, I don't know. Anyway. Die cut them from that, and then the little berries I die cut from the Hero Arts cherry cardstock. Any red cardstock will work. And then adhered all the pieces together. Super simple, because the die set die cuts like the berries. It's like one die that die cuts like a dozen of them all at once. Love that. You know, one pass, you're done. So I assembled those and I set them aside. I'll come back to that in a second. On the insides of my cards are top folding white note cards that are A2 size, so 5.5 by 4.25 inches. And I'm basically like, this is the inside of the card. I'm letting like the whole top like hang out of the MISTI here, because I want to stamp that white Christmas text on the inside, but just along the bottom, just for something a little different. I'm going to use that same shade of ink, the Dew color, and do the same thing. Like I inked up the stamp, pressed it onto my scrap of paper first, and then just pressed it a second time. So I got that second generation along the inside. So it's just fairly faint, which is, you know, kind of mimics the front. You could also just ink it up and stamp it full strength. That would look fine too. So stamped it, did the same thing, inked it up, stamped on the scrap paper, and then without re-inking it, stamped it along the bottom of the inside of the card. And I also pulled out the CZ Design Making Spirits Bright. Told you all with this one too. This is one I'm going to reach for a lot because you can't go wrong with holiday sentiments, and Kathy Zielski does some of the best. Love. So I pulled a couple sentiments from that, lined that up on the inside of the card, and then those I'm going to ink up and stamp with that same black ink that I've been using. So made sure everything was lined up and straight. I always have to get my head in the way because I, you know, look straight down. And then ink those up with the black ink, stamp that onto the inside. And then once that's done, that will finish the insides of these cards. So once I've got the inside stamped, I can start assembling all the little bits for the card fronts. So I'm going to adhere those backgrounds that I stamped with the white Christmas text in the white pigment ink. So adhere those down. And then the panels that I created the shakers with, I got to put a little bit more foam tape on the back of those to, again, just even everything out. And adhere the little bases. Once you adhere the base, it's like, it's a snow globe. It's so cute. It's so cute. These were fun. And again, these could be ornaments instead of snow globes. You could just use the ornament topper. I wanted to. I don't have enough hours in the day, man. I still haven't figured out how to clone myself. So anyway, I put foam tape on the back to make sure there's no, gaps so that nothing sags or gets smushed or whatever. And then a bit of liquid glue on the back as well, just to make sure everything stays adhered. And then pop these onto their card fronts. And all that, like, overthinking, again, like, the text is sort of seamless and it all lines up. But like I said, it's not that big of a deal, So anyway, I added a strip of the red cardstock as well, just for that little extra pop of red. And another oldie but goodie favorite, which is the Pointy Pine Needle Sprigs wafer die. That I die cut from Simon's Midnight Green cardstock. And then I decided to also add white gel pen highlights to the die cut little 2 stems and berries die that I assembled. Just cause. Another option would be to use like glossy accents on all those berries or like sprinkle a little bit of glitter on them. That would look really pretty. I didn't have time for glossy accents because, like I said, I don't have time for nothing right now. And I just don't have the patience. So I just did white gel pen highlights, but glossy accents would have looked really cute. Or you could just die cut the berries from like a metallic red cardstock. Then that's fast. Quick, fast, done. So anyway, adhered all my little sprigs. And then I die cut some scraps of black cardstock with the coordinating die for the sentiment. And then just adhered that to kind of level everything out, give it a smidge more dimension. And then I'm going to pop these onto the cards with just a little bit of foam tape and then liquid glue. Again, just to kind of even everything out because the sentiment's kind of hanging over the panel with all the foam tape. So got those popped into place. And then the final little embellishment, I have these red clay hearts because I've been using them a lot recently. So I haven't put them away. They're sitting on my desk and I was like, ooh, I can add one just right there. Glued that into place and that finished off the cards. So yeah, they're shakery. I don't know if my microphone's picking up the little bit of noise. Because again, these aren't like shaker bits. It's just glitter. But they do look like snow globes. And these were a lot of fun. This was such a cute set. Such a cute set. And like I said, you could just skip the coloring and just like do metallic heat embossing on white. Oh, they would look gorgeous. Gorgeous. So, anywho, everything I used will be listed and linked in the description box below the video. So you can just expand that and check it out if you are interested. As always, thank you all so very much for hanging out with me, for thumbs upping and commenting. It does help a ton. I very much appreciate it, letting them robot overlords know you like what you see. And subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And I will see you all very soon in another video. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!